Hello, welcome back to the Most Dangerous Podcast. How are you this week, James?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. A little bit snuffly though. Might be a bit of hay fever. So if you hear me sniffing or touching my nose a lot, I do apologise in advance.
Yeah, hay fever's a bastard, isn't it?
It can be. How are you this week?
I'm good, yeah. Good, thanks.
Good.
Yeah, just had a very average week, nothing to tell you.
That's pretty normal. So what have you got for us this week, Fraser?
Well, so last week we obviously drew out flights, and I'm going to talk about a flight that it just one of those things, one of those events in history that's just stuck with me. For some reason, there's plane crashes. There's been quite a few that I can recall, but this one, something just got me about it. So I'm going to talk about Germanwings Flight 9525.
9525. Yeah, I'm quite excited about this series actually because I think there's quite a lot to go on. There's loads of mysterious and unusual occurrences, not just necessarily planes either. There's loads through history. There's been sort of crazy things. So be interested to see what you've come up with.
Yeah, so Germanwings Flight 9525 was no mystery. It was a straightforward plane crash, but it was the circumstances that I think, dare say, make it interesting. It was just quite a unique sort of situation.
Is this the one that was quite recent?
Yes, it was 2015.
Right, okay. I'm going to pretend that I've heard of this. I'm going to pretend that I knew about this one before you told me what it was. So yeah,
right.
It is a very interesting one.
Yes, fair enough. So we'll start. So James, on the morning of March the 24th, 2015, Germanwings Flight 9525, which was an Airbus 320. Are you familiar with that plane? It's a very standard kind of EasyJet, Ryanair type.
The bog standard ones, yeah. That everyone goes on to, like the Jet 2s and all that.
Yeah, the kind of normal little...
the one that you go on holiday on.
Distance.
Yeah.
One with seats and a pilot. So it was preparing for takeoff from Barcelona El Prat Airport, bound for Düsseldorf in Germany. There were 144 passengers on board, along with 6 crew members. The flight was expected to be very routine, a short hop over the French Alps, lasting just under 2 hours. So as you can imagine, Spain, they go up over France, across to Germany.
Yeah, easy enough flight. I reckon I could do that.
Standard. There's one of those flights they do back and forward about 6 times a day, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Captain Patrick Sodenheimer, who was an experienced pilot with over 6,000 flight hours, was in charge that day, and sitting beside him was the co-pilot Andreas Lubitz. Just 27 years old, he'd only recently qualified as a first officer.
Oh, not bad.
Now, something I found out a few years ago, the captain doesn't fly the plane. The co-pilot generally flies the plane, and the captain does his other things, whatever he does.
Like what? So has his lunch, has his champagne.
Yeah, that sort of thing. I think it's one of those things. You're captain now, so you can sort of put your feet up. The co-pilot will fly it, and you just make sure he doesn't fuck up.
Just make sure he doesn't make a mess of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy's only recently qualified as a first officer, so he's not long been flying. The flight initially took off 20 minutes late, and Captain Sodenheimer apologised for the delay, but he said they'll try and make it up in the air. And for the first 20-30 minutes of the flight, everything was absolutely normal.
Yeah, we'll fly extra fast today, just to make up
extra
the time.
Fast, yeah.
We normally just fly at normal speed, but today we'll fly extra fast because we're 20 minutes late.
Yeah. Difference between sprinting and jogging, isn't it? I don't know. They always say that, don't they? We'll try and make up some time.
Yeah.
You think, well, why don't you just
do that anyway?
Yeah.
No one wants to sit here for extra time.
So anyway, so before takeoff, now this is relatively important. The captain told co-pilot Andreas Lubitz that he didn't manage to get a chance to go to the toilet. Lubitz said to him, "That's fine. You can go anytime." Obviously, on the plane.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I know. Don't worry about it. You can go anytime. Yeah, cheers. I
wasn't
this
asking.
More than
I wasn't asking for your permission. So at 10:27, so this is 20-30 minutes into the flight. It reached. This is interesting. It reached its cruising altitude of 38,000 feet, and at that point, the captain asked the co-pilot to prepare for landing. So it's that short a flight that by the time it gets to its cruising altitude, it's like, right, we're up there. Now
And now you
start
come back
preparing
down.
for landing.
It's similar to when you go to France, it's the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
I went to Cornwall once, and that was half an hour, literally, like it was
Really.
up and down. Yeah,
But they still get a drinks trolley out, don't they?
yeah. They rush it though. They're like straight up and down.
Drinks trolley, and behind them's the guy with the bin bags for the cups and stuff.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
Mental. I did it it was like Dublin or Belfast or something from Liverpool. It's like, wow.
Yeah, like
really
the
get off the
seatbelt
ground.
sign sort of goes off, and then about sort of 2 minutes later, it comes back on again. Like, oh, right.
Yeah. So when the captain said to co-pilot Lubitz, he says, right, prepare for landing. Lubitz says, do you know what? If you want to go to the toilet, you can go now.
Thanks
And,
again, mate.
Thanks very much.
I've already told you. I'm not asking for permission. I know where it is. Cheers.
Absolutely. So, and this is on, obviously, all this, they're actually telling from the flight recorder. So on the flight recorder, there's the sound of the captain's seat moving, and you can hear the captain saying to Lubitz, that's fine, you take full control, I'm going to go to the toilet.
Why is he like? You're making a big issue about this toilet thing. Hopefully, this isn't the main thing that happens. Like, this is the story.
Yeah,
the captain went to the toilet.
That's it. Captain came back. It was textbook. Flight was fit.
Poetry in motion. Then they landed, and everyone was happy.
So at 10:29, so this is 2 minutes after the pilot goes to the toilet, as we've mentioned.
He needed the toilet, did he?
He did. He needed the toilet, and Lubitz said he can go. He said it's fine. So at 10:29, the air traffic radar detects that the plane started to descend, which wasn't expected. At 10:32, the air traffic controllers tried to contact the plane to ask if something's wrong, and there was no answer. At almost the same time, an alarm goes off in the cockpit to say that the sink rate is too much. They're descending too fast.
Okay, so they're going down too quickly.
Going down. At 10:34, you can hear loud bangs on the door. Sodenheimer screaming, "For God's sake, open the door!" And in the background, you can hear passengers start to scream.
So that's the captain banging on the cabin door, trying to get in, is it?
To get back in, yeah.
Right.
At 10:35, there are loud metallic bangs can be heard. And it's believed the captain had some kind of fire extinguisher trying to smash the door open.
But yeah.
How they know that, I don't know. They've just sort of guessed that's probably the most likely thing by the door that he would have picked up.
Right. And you say passengers were screaming?
Yes.
So it must have been descending quite quickly then for them to realise that something was up-wrong. And I suppose,
descending.
Like with one of those planes, depending on where you're sitting, you can sometimes see like the cabin, can't you?
Well, yeah.
So maybe they're just panicking because he was banging on the door with a fire extinguisher.
That's it. If you're in a flight and the captain's saying, "Open the fucking door," then you're going to say something's up here. This isn't a prank. You know?
Yeah.
Now, the thing about the captain's door is obviously, I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but in 9/11, there was the thing about it was terrorists went as passengers on the plane. During the flights, they got up with knives and basically got their way into the cockpit, got the pilots out. I don't know, did they kill the pilots?
Well, they killed everyone, though, didn't they, to be fair?
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're saying, because there was no security on the doors, were there?
That was it. So they got control of the cockpit. So 9/11, usually, as we've talked about, disasters create new rules and new regulations to make sure that doesn't happen again. After 9/11, they had to make sure that under no circumstances can anyone break into a cockpit.
Yeah.
Which obviously then went against this pilot in this particular situation, because the co-pilots locked the door. No one can get in.
See, they didn't think about that properly, did they? You think, well, no one can get in, but maybe the captain should have a key, or
in his pocket or something
like that. Anyway,
maybe he left it when he went to the toilet. Left his key.
That's probably a possibility.
In a movie, you would see the key on the seat, wouldn't you?
Yeah, there's a name for that. I can't remember what it is, but in a film or a TV series, it'll like focus on something like a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And it means like that's important. That's going to sort of But like you say, yeah. So if this is a film, it'd be like the key. When he goes to the toilet, it'll focus on the key.
You see him walk out and then it'll zoom into the key.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Wow.
If any our listeners know what the actual sort of movie name for that particular sort of shot is, please let us know.
Yeah, be interested actually. So you can hear the loud metallic bangs. You can hear the captain trying to knock down the door, and at this point the plane's at 23,000 feet, so it's dropped 15,000 feet in, we're talking like 5 minutes or something like that. That's quite a lot.
Yeah, that's
now it's not going down like a dart. Basically, what's his name? Lubick, isn't it?
A noticeable dip, isn't it? If you're sat on a plane, it's going like, you can see that it's, because you can tell by the horizon, can't you? Was this in the morning? Was it 10 a.m. or
10 a.m. in the morning?
Right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So
10 a.m. in the fucking morning. Yes.
Yeah. So you'd see the horizon, wouldn't you? Kind of sort of dipping.
Absolutely, you'd feel it. I mean, even when it's descending, just normally, you can feel it, can't you?
Yeah, when it's coming into land. Yeah.
And particularly when the captain's trying to smash the door down with a fire extinguisher, you think something's definitely up.
Yeah, you'd be panicking a little bit.
Yeah, I'd assume that the air hostesses and the air stewards, it is nowadays, isn't it? I'd assume the air stewards would be a bit panicky as well, because they would know something's up.
Yeah, they probably have more information than the passengers.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. I guess you've got like a head steward.
Yes.
And then you've got other people, the other staff. So I guess the captain would be like, "This fucker's locked me out." Go and tell the crew to like settle everyone down or something like that.
Have you got your key? No. 90 seconds after the captain was heard bang on the door, there's another alarm that starts saying terrain pull up. So by this point, the plane's about 16,400 feet. The captain is heard screaming, "Open this damn door." Now, of course, it's the mountains. They're in a mountainous region, so it doesn't have to necessarily be at sea level to start hitting things.
Yeah.
So that's why it's obviously detecting terrain.
And that was in the cockpit, was it? Saying, pull up, pull up,
yeah,
pull
so
up.
that's the alarm in the cockpit.
Yeah, okay.
Basically telling the co-pilot, do you know that you're heading towards the ground?
Yeah.
And
pretty good device, isn't it, to have?
Yeah, it's handy. It's like, those things at the side of the motorway go drrrr.
Yeah, they saved me a fair few times there.
Definitely. We do a lot of driving through the night while the kids are asleep.
Yeah.
And those rumble strips have saved 7 lives in my family quite a few times.
Saved me a fair few times, yeah.
So by 10:38, the plane is descending towards the French Alps, and the co-pilot can be heard breathing. Just
so pretty
nice, calm.
Yeah, just taking in the view.
Yeah, no panic, just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
By 10:40, it sounds like the plane's right wing scrapes a mountaintop, and that's believed what's happened is the first impact was actually the wing touches the top of a mountain.
That would just surely not spin the plane, but it would knock it. It would have some sort of like effect on its velocity or something, wouldn't it? It would just kind of make it spin out of control.
Within seconds of that, there are screams, and then there's silence, and that's it.
That's it, bloody hell.
So that's what happened. So you've got a pilot. Did we mention he went to the toilet? Co-pilot locks him out. And what he actually did, he didn't fly the plane. He set the autopilot to 100 foot. So you can press a button on the autopilot to set it to any height. So usually I knew a pilot, and he said that you only need to take off the first 5,000 or 6,000 feet. So the co-pilot gets on the runway, drives down the runway, pulls it up, and once it gets to about 5,000-6,000 feet, at that point you can press autopilot.
And it'll just.
And he said normally they'll fly to 9,000 or 10,000.
Yeah, but does it? I suppose like the actual flying bit is getting it on the flight path, and then you press the autopilot button, I guess.
The autopilot will do it, but generally what he said is they'll get it up and they'll turn it in the right direction.
Right.
So that they go, Germany's that way. and then they press the
button.
autopilot. But the autopilot will follow a pre-programmed flight path.
Really? Piece of piss. How much do they get paid?
I know. It's mental, isn't it?
Press the button.
And then the autopilot brings them right down to the point where, the runway's down there, and then they take over and deal with.
They have to do the takeoff and the landing. But but people say, don't they, the most dangerous part of flying is the takeoff and the landing. So it's
particularly the landing, I believe.
The bit that the humans have to do.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just all the computer stuff is, no worries about that.
But there's no roads, there's no traffic. It's not like. Apparently, if two planes come within a mile of each other, that's classed as a near miss.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like they're flying right past other planes. It does happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what he did is he set the autopilot to 100 foot because he knew that if it just kept going down to that level, eventually it's going to hit something because they're in the middle of the Alps.
Yeah.
So in the hours following the crash, the world was shocked. And I remember the crash vividly. I remember it being on the news and you just think, another plane crash. Something's happened. It's hit a mountain. At first, like I said, it just seemed like a tragic accident. Within 48 hours, when the investigators had retrieved the cockpit voice recorder, what they heard changed everything. And that's what we've just been through. You could hear, obviously, the pilot had been locked out and the co-pilot's done this.
Yeah, it does seem a bit mad. It does seem
I think it's significant that it says that there was heavy breathing because it's not like he's locked them out and then had the heart attack and lost control of the plane. He was obviously breathing. He knew what he was doing. Well, it's obviously knew what he was doing because he programmed it anyway.
It does sound a bit sort of terrorist-y, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of like he's got infiltrated the cockpit and crashed a plane into the side of a mountain to kill loads of people.
Exactly that, yeah. So, like we said, the final 10 minutes were harrowing. Imagine being on board that plane, just knowing that we're going down.
Yeah, it'd be horrible, that, wouldn't it? That would be a fate. Well, that'd be a horrible death, I think.
Yeah. You wouldn't know much about the actual death. It would be so quick.
No, but that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's just
smashed into pieces, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but then it's the bit that you got at least 30 seconds to 5 minutes knowing that something's going to happen, and you're probably not going to survive it. And if you're going on holiday, you've got your wife and your kids with you as well, and that they're probably not going to. Oh, that's awful, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's you just couldn't imagine it. I mean, obviously, people have been on planes where there's been a bomb on board, and you're sitting eating your food, and the next thing you just
obliterated,
blown up or something. Yeah.
And
the terrorist attacks, like they obviously they didn't know they were going to hit the Twin Towers. They could have been hijacking the plane to land it somewhere and hold them hostage or anything like that.
Yeah,
I think this particular situation, they must have known that
it's going down. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to do the Twin Towers in this series. Well, I'm not. I don't think you are either.
It's too big.
I think we did say it's too big a subject last week. But just a note on that, I do recall people on the flights there, the two flights that went into the Twin Towers, phoning loved ones and saying,
"Yeah, I have heard that.
We've been hijacked. It's going to go into the tower," or something like that. There's quite a few. It's really horrible, actually. Channel 4 did a really good documentary on it, where it was actually kind of like minute by minute. So like everything that happened over those 2 or 3 hours, it's like a 2 and 3 hour sort of documentary, and it kind of like it's like on this minute, this person phoned this person, and like it's pretty cool. Well, it's not very nice, but if you want a sort of like a very upsetting documentary, go and watch that one.
Yeah. We've talked about this before. It's amazing how much fascination you get out of tragedy. That there's obviously there's 1,000 shows about tragedy for every one show that's about a happy story.
Yeah, it's that
even like soaps that we watch. That's always about tragedy and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
things going wrong and
people's
interest. Humans sick. So James. Andreas Lubitz, let's talk a little bit about him. So he was born in Montabaur in Germany, and from a young age he dreamed of being a pilot. He was described as quiet, polite, and a bit obsessive. He started training with Lufthansa Germanwings parent company in 2008.
This is the co-pilot, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But in 2009, he suffered a severe depressive episode. He was suspended from flight training and underwent psychiatric treatment.
Right.
In the months leading up to the crash, he had seen multiple doctors. Some had declared him unfit to fly, but Lubitz never passed these notes to his employer. In fact, German law didn't require doctors to inform the airline unless there was a clear and present danger.
Wow. I bet that's changed since, though, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. It's always too late, isn't it? These things.
Yeah. Well, again, I mentioned it earlier. Usually, it needs a tragedy
I
for
know.
them to go, we need to put a law in there.
It seems a bit weird. Well, it's easy in hindsight to say it should have happened. I don't know. If you're responsible for so many people, I think medical records, perhaps particularly when they affect your mental state, perhaps there should have been hindsight there to say, well, yeah, this does need to be recorded with your employer.
Just playing devil's advocate, though, what if they say that if you go and see a doctor, it's got to be reported to your employer? So people that have got depressive, suicidal thoughts don't go to the doctors and think if I go, they'll report me to an employer.
Well,
so then they don't get the help that they need.
A pilot, though, surely has to have at least annual medical checkups, I would have thought.
Yeah, true.
I think. I'm guessing. But 6 months, 12 months, they have to go to the doctor and get some sort of I don't know whether it's like some sort of psychiatric evaluation. I'm not sure about that, but they probably do now after this. But I would have thought, at least some sort of health checkup, I would imagine, if you're a pilot.
And Lubitz, he never mentioned suicidal thoughts, but his search history told a different story. In the days before the crash, Lubitz had looked up cockpit door security, suicide methods, and even previous aviation disasters.
Bloody hell, right.
Yeah.
Well, preemptive.
Yeah, I know. It's like, when people say, oh, the government shouldn't see what our internet search history is, I think in some cases they probably should.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
He even rehearsed the descent pattern on earlier flights. There was actually evidence where he briefly adjusted the altitudes of the autopilot, and then changed it back again just to see
how it worked, see how he could
do it. What would happen. So obviously it was cold, it was calculated, and it was premeditated.
So this has been in his mind for a little while then. I know the internet search was sort of the night before or the day before, but then if he's testing it out in other flights, it's been he's been thinking about it.
I read there was a flight where he was sitting, basically doing all the checks and stuff. Usually pilots do what's called a walk around. So the co-pilot sits in the cockpit, checks all the buttons and the dials and stuff.
Yeah.
And the pilot does a physical walk around to see is one engine, two engines. Fine.
There's not very big space to walk around, that's what I mean.
No, outside the plane.
Oh, see, right, okay.
Not,
in
the cockpit.
Right, yeah.
No, the pilot gets out, walks around the plane to see if there's, like a hole in the wings.
Like you do with a car before a long journey.
Yeah, and people, if you see on Facebook, people going, oh my God, there was a guy putting duct tape on the wing just before we took off. Apparently that's normal. It's like proper flight tape if it needs to hold something down. But
that's bits coming off of there.
But it would never be for like a mechanical part. It might just be a loose bit of cladding or something that they'll literally sellotape down. So the pilot does a walk around, co-pilot does all the checks, and apparently there was evidence that this guy had been like messing with stuff to see if it could be done whilst he was doing his checks. So obviously when all this came to light, there was just massive outrage, and justifiably so. This guy had done this.
Yeah, how many casualties?
Well, there were 150, so there were 6 crew, 144 passengers.
Yeah, and a bit lax on the old checking out if he was okay there, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. So the families of the victims, they were obviously devastated. There were parents, children. There was a school trip on it, which I'll come on to.
Really?
partners, they were all robbed of their loved ones in a calculated act of mass murder disguised as a plane crash. The fact that a person with a known psychiatric condition could be allowed to fly a commercial airliner shook the public trust in aviation security.
Well, yeah, like you say, it is an act of mass murder, isn't it? Because, okay, the guy was suicidal by the sounds of things, but why do you have to take out all those people with you? Just, jib yourself off on your own,
exactly,
in a dark room. Yeah. It's just like, it's like a statement almost, isn't it? It's very grim.
Well, I'll come on to that at the end, because I'll explain to you why this airline disaster actually struck a chord with me more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, there were school children on the plane. They'd been on a student exchange. There were opera singers that had been on tour, businessmen, travellers, honeymooners, every kind of story imaginable. Everyone had their own story, obviously, of why they were on that plane.
Yeah.
The German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, she called it beyond our understanding. Pope Francis, who's not with us now, is he? Prayed for the victims. Is that the one that just died?
Don't know.
Pope Francis?
Don't know. Possibly.
France, Germany, and Spain, they all declared national mourning, but the prayers weren't enough. Something had to change. And change did come.
There's a catalogue of errors, so naturally things needed to change.
So the first rule that was brought in was the 2-person cockpit rule. And I'd read about this because of this accident. I read about this years ago, that because of the locking door, like you said, they never thought it through, that once you're out, you can't get back in.
Yeah.
So after this incident, there always had to be 2 people in the cockpit. So if for any reason a pilot needs to go to the toilet, the head steward has to go in.
Right, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy, like I said, it's easy to look back and go, oh, why didn't they think of that? But you don't do it at the time until something like this happens, and then you go, bloody hell, we should have done that, actually, yeah.
But it's because you trust a pilot. And I've always said to the kids are like, are you sure the plane's okay? What's that noise? What's that smell? And I've always said to the kids, it's fine. Look, the pilot doesn't want to die. So he's not going to fly a plane if there's something wrong with it.
Yeah. In fact, I did see something recently. I think it was in LA or something like that. And the pilot was sat there and he did all his checks and stuff. And then everyone was on the plane and he just went, ladies and gentlemen, I've done my checks. I'm not going to fly this plane today. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. I've got a really bad feeling about it. I'm sorry for your delay, but you're going to have to get off and go back into the airport, because from what I've seen, I just don't think it's safe to fly today. And it's like,
but that's what you want.
yeah.
But do you know what the thing is? I bet there was people going, I'm not getting off. I need to get to fucking San Francisco or whatever.
Hawaii, I think it was going to.
So, Hawaii. There would be someone raging, going, no, it's fine, fly it. I need to get there.
Yeah.
Like, no, we'll die.
Yeah, but that's the first time I've ever seen that. But yeah, like you say, the pilots, they want to make the flight as well.
Yeah.
Usually.
You would think that, but obviously in this case, I must say now, this is, it's not, we're laughing, it's not a laughing matter.
No, of course not, no. It's absolutely not.
So there was the 2-person cockpit rule. So like we said, pilot can never be left alone. And Germany changed their data sharing laws so that obviously, if someone is a registered pilot and they go to the doctors with any mental health conditions or anything, where basically if a doctor thinks this guy's not safe to fly a plane, he's got to inform the authorities.
Yeah, that makes sense as well.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. So Lufthansa, who were Germanwings' parent company, they faced multiple lawsuits and deep public scrutiny. They pledged to enhance their psychological testing in recruitment and monitoring. But for many, obviously, it was too little, too late.
Yeah, of course. And it's never going to stop. There'll always be something, like this is obviously a massive tragedy.
Yeah.
But until the next one, because there's something that they will have missed and something someone didn't think of. And, it's just a constantly changing, people are always one step behind, aren't they? There's always something else will happen, and people will go,
Yeah.
"Oh, why didn't we think of doing that like all those years ago?" And it's never ending.
But that's hindsight, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
So the families, they received compensation, but obviously no amount of money could fix the hole left behind. In one of the most moving moments, the families of the victims, they all gathered at the crash site in the remote Alpine Valley, peaceful and quiet, and a memorial stone was then laid with the 150 names on it of all the people that died. Interesting, they must have put his name on it. You would have left him out, wouldn't you? Would you? Is that wrong? I suppose if he was ill.
Tough one. Yeah, it is a tough one, that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to have a look at that.
I know. So that's the story of it. The reason I wanted to tell that story is, for me, that was a point in my life where I actually went, shit, someone else is in control of my life in so many situations. And like I said to you, I've always said, say to the kids, the pilot doesn't want to die. You're fine. You're on a bus, the bus driver. You put your trust in the bus driver.
Yeah, but not in this instance. He
in
did.
This instance,
yeah, it was the opposite.
And it started. I got paranoid. I'm driving along the motorway, and I'm like, that guy driving his car, he could be suicidal and decide to crash into me.
Yeah, that's happened before. That's happened quite recently. Someone drove down the wrong side of the motorway. And killed like 4 people just because they wanted. Yeah, it's madness.
I think I've mentioned it on this before, but I'll mention it very quickly. A sort of man I know, his wife and her 2 children drove the wrong way down the motorway.
Oh yeah,
killed his kids. It does happen, but you think about, well, it's obviously not fine for the kids, but she's made that decision. But the people that she's crashed into, she's affected their lives.
It's just that's so selfish, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just like I said, just do yourself in. Don't do all that with other people.
I know. I mean, go and seek help. Really.
Well, yeah, no, you don't do yourself in. This is not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're struggling with mental health, you go and sort that out and shit. But I mean, in this circumstances, it's just a terrible tragedy which could have been avoided if you got the right help, and if you.
The other thing that really got me about it is again the kind of why. Now, people will say like the 9/11 terrorists and stuff like that. They essentially did the same thing. They took out thousands of people. But in their heads, they're radicalized. They're doing it for a belief. They're doing it for, I'm right, you're wrong, this is war, sort of thing like that. But this guy obviously wanted to take his own life. I cannot fathom why he would decide to take all those other people with him.
Yeah. I mean, did you read anything? Was he scorned lover, or is something affected him apart from the obvious depression and things like that? Was there something in his life that he thought, fuck it, I'm going to kill loads of people? Or
there was nothing other than obviously his obvious mental health issues. There was nothing, no major event in his life, nothing they could track this back to why he would have done it. And that's what's so baffling about it.
Yeah.
Why take all these people with you?
Shit.
You can, people think their partner's cheating on them and they murder them and then commit suicide and stuff. There's like a seed of why they've done it.
Yeah, like the motive.
There's no condoning it, but there's always a seed of why someone's done it. Like I said, the terrorists, they do it because they're radicalized. They think that they're doing right. In their head, they're doing right. I can't fathom why this guy did it. And it really... And I remember when it happened. I remember the day or two later, my mum phoned me going, that guy did that deliberately. I was going, shit.
That's mad.
I thought it was just a plane crash. And it's like the JFK moment. I remember this all happening.
Yeah. Some people just want to watch the world burn, I suppose.
Yeah. But yeah, mad story. But that was the story of Flight 9525.
Yeah. That's what a tragedy. Yeah. And it does make you kind of, well, I'll hopefully not think about this the next time I get on a flight, but it does make you kind of go, bloody hell, yeah. My life is in their hands,
It is. It's like I was saying to you, like, you go to hospital and they give you an anaesthetic for an operation. You think, I'm completely in this guy's trust.
Yeah.
And you trust the surgeon, you trust the pilot, you trust other drivers on the road, but you don't know what's going on in their life.
Exactly,
People hide things so well, don't they?
Yeah.
And, the surgeon could have had a bad day. And
Imagine.
like imagine, though, it just takes the surgeon's wife or husband has just left them and they're depressed out of their minds. And just because of that, they just take a couple of minutes more to do what they need to do because they're depressed. And they're not in a rush to do it. And you die because of it. It's like there's so much trust in the world.
Yeah, it's best not to think about it, is it?
I know.
Whenever I have an operation, go on a flight, I just don't think about anything. Like, I just think, right, whatever will be. I
don't believe that there is a pilot. I just think that the plane knows what it's doing.
That's where it's going. Fine. That's where it'll go in 20 years.
In all honesty, flying is still the safest form of travel. There's no point in worrying about flying once a year when you're driving on the M56.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
5 times a week.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Right. Well, what a horrible story. Thank you very much.
And I must say, I know we've laughed at points during this, and I've already mentioned this. All respect to the victims and their families. It was a terrible tragedy. We're not trying to get any humour out of this. It's
of course, yeah.
Story.
And if people are struggling with mental health, there are people that you can speak to as well. That's
absolutely
should be made a point of as well.
Right, what's your turn next week, James?
Yeah.
I'll look forward to whatever it is.
Back on it, right? Excellent. Okay, I'll have a think. I've got a few ideas. Like I said, there's loads of stuff.
I could have done 5.
Yeah,
I think
it's a good subject. This.
Yeah. Maybe we'll just do 6. It's our podcast.
Could do. Right, okay. I will see you next week then.
See you then. It's been the most dangerous podcast, and that was Flight 9525. Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.